Bases dropped on a busy week of soccer down here. It's February 24th, second leg of the Scotiabank CONCACAF Champions League starts tomorrow. It starts in Kennesaw with Atlanta United hosting Motagua. 7 other games going on tomorrow, going on Wednesday, going on Thursday to decide who goes to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Then Saturday, season number 25 of Major League Soccer kicks off. Atlanta will be in Nashville Saturday night, and I think a lot of you guys and a lot of Atlanta United fans will be in Nashville as well, along with a lot of Nashville fans. Let's not play games here. You've got over 40,000 tickets sold. It's not 38,000 folks coming from Atlanta. This is going to be a fun night for soccer in Nashville, for Atlanta fans, for soccer in the South, for Major League Soccer all the way around. Kicking off season number 25. It's going to be a fun week. It's going to be a busy week, all kinds of stuff going on, and we kick it off this morning, John.
So basically what you're saying is make sure that you are hydrated, that you are strapped in appropriately, head on a swivel, everything ready to go.
The first thing you go to is hydrated.
Make sure that you're hydrated. Make sure that you got the food. Make sure that you're ready to go.
Make sure you look both ways before you cross the street. Make sure you take your vitamins. I mean, come on, what else are we
drink your milk.
Getting into here? Jeez.
Drink your milk. Just be ready. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fast, and it's going to be here before we know it.
It's here. It's here. There's press conference this morning in Kennesaw with Atlanta United training and then speaking to the media. Probably just after the time we get off the air. Motagua will be training a little bit later today. All kinds of stuff going on in that regard. We're going to talk a lot of MLS preview today, but we'll kind of set the scene for tomorrow's CONCACAF Champions League matches as well. I mean, very basically, Motagua did play over the weekend. They started one player that they started against Atlanta on Tuesday, which was to be expected, and he was an injury replacement. So Marcelo Santos did double duty. Nobody else started that match that started on Tuesday and is probably likely to start tomorrow. So the Motagua pulled out a scoreless draw. That's pretty good for them. They're probably happy with that, with a heavily rotated lineup, and it's everything for Motagua on Tuesday. They're throwing everything at this because they have a legitimate shot to go through.
And you're anticipating with Motagua, they're going to come after it. No fear. You're on the road, and for me, it's going to be.
I'm not necessarily buying that.
What?
I don't think Motagua's going to come after it.
No. Okay.
Why would they? They didn't really in Honduras. Why are they going to play more open here? Because when you say that, that sounds like a team that's going to attack. I don't think they're going to attack. I don't think they're built that way.
I figured that they would. We've seen what happens. Obviously, it's fairly one-sided when you're looking at the pitch with their attack, but I figured they're going to try to come after it in the first 20 minutes and try to see what they can do.
No, I think it's the opposite. I think they try to hold on for the first 20 minutes because they would expect Atlanta's going to be a house of fire to kick this thing off. So Motagua would probably be very well served to sit, defend, be very conservative early. It's 90 minutes. They don't have to get a goal in the first 20. They just need one goal. They just need to go find a goal to erase that away goal deficit. They don't need to give anything up. So why would you potentially blow the series in the first 20 minutes by playing wide open when, for Motagua, the longer it goes, and we see this all the time in second legs, the longer it goes with the home team, the favored team in the second leg in this kind of scenario, when they don't get that goal early, you get frustrated, you start to press a little bit, and mistakes start to happen. Motagua wants to cause that. They don't want to risk it all in 20 minutes and potentially get exposed against a team that's stronger. I mean, let's be real. Atlanta United's a stronger team than Motagua, and Motagua knows that. They're not coming in here naive about it. They've been in these situations before. They've got a pretty extensive CONCACAF Champions League experience. They're going to pick their spots. They're not going to come out and just be wide open and expose a back line that's missing their captain in Juan Pablo Montes. they're going to, I think, try to protect him. I think you would be expected to see the back four stay home early on. The two central midfielders in Mallorquin and Gavalis probably stay home for the most part. Defend with six. Your wingers are going to have to pick your spots. Lopez, they'll try to get going. Castellanos on the left will probably stay at home a little bit to make it more of like a 4-3 lopsided. Lopez will go when he can. Your forwards up top. Morera, who likes to drift, and either Castillo or Klusener are going to be your number 9. They're going to stay up high and look for the long ball. I think it's going to be very simple from Motagua early on because they have to grow into this. If they come out and give up a goal early, they're in huge trouble.
Yes.
Huge trouble. So they can't come out and risk it early.
I looked at it, and the way that I was processing what I was thinking was going to happen here from their perspective, you're on the road, you want to get that shot in early, you want to put the guy that you know that has more talent on their heels. That's what my perspective was.
How many times do you see the underdog come in and do that, though? It's you're looking at drawing the wild card out of the deck with that. It's just unlikely. You've got to play percentages. And Diego Vasquez is a manager who's got titles under his belt. He's got a lot of experience. They've been to the final of CONCACAF League the last couple times. He's been around the block. You can't come in and risk it all that fast. You've got to be careful. And they're an inferior team. It's not a knock that they don't belong here, any of that kind of nonsense. They're just the underdog. And when you come in as the underdog and you play in the way that you're asking them to play, it's a naive way of approaching the match because you're hoping. You're hoping for something. You don't win games on hope. You don't win a series. You definitely don't pull off an upset with hope. You have to be smart. And I think for a Motagua team that honestly doesn't create a ton of chances in the run of play, they don't have a true number 10. They're going to have to get the ball out wide and put in a cross, or they're going to have to play long and look for a knockdown. They can't really risk doing anything different than that, and also they are going to be conservative here because they know that if Atlanta gets the first goal, they're done for probably. And then they do have to open up, and that's not what you want against a team with an attack of Ezequiel Barco, Pity Martinez, and Joseph Martinez. You want to keep it tight. You want to keep it secure, and you want to make Atlanta have to work for it. Look, if it finishes scoreless, Atlanta goes through. So, yes, at some point, Motagua is going to have to open up if it stays scoreless, if they want to go through. But you don't want to do that in the first 20 minutes and lose the game there. You want to take it as long as you can and stretch this thing out.
All right, so then let me present it this way. When you're the decided underdog here, and I've yet to look at juice boxes, and I
Trust
will.
me, they're the decided underdog. You don't need a juice box to back that up.
But I mean, just how far a decided underdog they are, how far that minus is for Atlanta United.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't matter. These juice box folks probably don't know the Honduran League very well. I mean, they might make it a crazy number. They might not. They might just make it flat because they don't know what the action's going to be. That doesn't tell you anything here. What tells you the difference here is a player like Ezequiel Barco, Pity Martinez, and how much Atlanta United spent for them is probably more in transfer fees than Motagua spent in the last decade. That counts for something. And it's, again, Motagua's a dangerous team that can hurt you and they can beat you. But they're also not a naive one that's going to come out here and be reckless. They're smart. They know this situation. Because Motagua in CONCACAF action in the past has played MLS teams, but they've also played Liga MX teams. And they've played the underdog role. Central American teams know how to handle favorited teams. And doesn't mean they go through all the time, but they know how to handle it. So, Motagwa's the decided underdog no matter what amount of juice boxes or numbers are put next to the name.
So then let me ask it this way then. Devil's advocate. Why not come in on the road and, all right, so odds portal has Atlanta United at minus 244. Why not come in and punch the bully in the nose off the top?
Well, you can do that in a way without risking your game. You can come out and be aggressive. You can come out and kick people all over the field. You can come out and step hard when the ball's in your defensive half. You can do things to punch a bully in the nose, but are you going to go for the haymaker and miss and then be exposed and get knocked out? No. That'd be foolish. You're looking for a lottery ticket playing that way. Diego Vasquez isn't that kind of a manager. Motagwa's not that kind of a team. Why would you want to open up and expose, when you didn't in the home leg either, first off, and why would you do that against an attack like Joseph Martinez, Ezequiel Barco, Pity Martinez? It's not even against just a good attacking team. You're going up against three of the best attackers in CONCACAF. No matter if MLSsoccer.com puts Barco or Pity in the top 5 players at their position or not, you're talking about three of the best attackers in CONCACAF, period. So that factors into it, too. If you were playing Montreal, and let's take Saprissa out of it, let's put Motagwa there, it's level going to Montreal, different conversation. You don't have that same respect for Lassi Lapalainen, Romel Kyoto, Maxi Urruti, or Giaquanquo. You don't have that same respect. You do for Joseph Martinez, Pity Martinez, and Ezequiel Barco. That factors into this as well.
Like I said, just thought I would put that out there as when I punch the bully in the nose off the top. I just wanted to have that. But
that's the thing, John. In a fight, if you are the underdog and you're trying to beat up the bully, in that case, why are you going to take a wild swing to start the fight and get one-punch knockout? It's not a smart play. What was the oh man, now I can see it in my head, but I can't remember it. Oh, Dazed and Confused. When dude wants to fight the bully, right? In the big fight. And what does he say? He's going to throw one punch and he's going to play defense. He's going to play defense is the key here. Because he expects everybody to come in and break it up. Because he doesn't want to risk anything. He's going to throw that one shot, catch it by surprise, and then just roll up. Well, nobody came in quick enough to help him out, and he got beat up pretty good. But anyway.
And I've never seen Dazed and Confused, so that's...
Whoa. What?
Bits and pieces, but not the whole movie.
What?
Holy cow!
Basically,
off the rails with that nonsense. Oh my god!
Yeah. I've seen the McConaughey scenes, and that's about it.
That's incredibly upsetting, John. All right, well, you're gonna have to watch that before too long because good grief.
Homework assignment.
Yeah, man.
Oh, and for the record, Montreal is plus 102, and Club America is minus 769. By the way.
Yeah, I mean that tells you how people look at Comunicaciones and Club America. Club America should go through. Atlanta should go through. They're in the same situation. Montreal and Saprissa, it's much more of a toss-up. New York City should go through in their situation with the advantage. LAFC and Leon, that's going to be an interesting one to see how that evolves during the week. So, lots of stuff this week. We want to get your tweets. So, tweet at us. At Soccer Down Here. Let us know what you're thinking on a Monday. Are you excited about tomorrow? Are you going tomorrow? What are you looking for in this match tomorrow? You excited about Saturday? Are you going to Nashville on Saturday? What are you excited about when it comes to Nashville on Saturday? All kinds of stuff to talk about today. What do we have on Twitter to kick us off?
Turner Kirby has a lot on Twitter this morning.
I like Turner Kirby.
He has a thread, so we'll take it a piece at a time.
Okay.
How is it that boxing gets seemingly wall-to-wall coverage out of nowhere the week of a big fight, parenthesis, as well as people talking strategy of boxing I didn't think would have strategy level knowledge of it, close parentheses, But none of that happens for soccer or heck, even baseball. That's first paragraph.
I think it happens for baseball. I think the difference is it happens more regularly for baseball, so it doesn't feel as shocking. Boxing, look, this is this is when you get into the big conversation. I tweeted about it following up on Roberto Abramovitz's tweet, which was a really important one that people just, I think, seem to be missing the point. So Roberto covers soccer in New York. He covers all sports in New York in Spanish language. He's worked for ESPN Deportes. He's called NYCFC in Spanish. Roberto's great. And he quote tweeted Dan Cordemanch's tweet, shouting out the AJC, shouting out Doug Robertson for the big Atlanta United and MLS season preview that was in the Sunday paper. Go find one if you haven't picked it up yet. But Roberto said, "Hi, New York Post Sports, New York Times Sports, New York Daily News Sports, WFAN 660, ESPN 98.7. Can we get this for New York City and New York Red Bulls? This is the only major city where soccer get basically no coverage from you. New York sports fans, especially soccer fans, deserve better." Sadly, I think there's some other cities who might be in this conversation too, but I quote tweeted Roberto's, and I said that Atlanta's lucky to have key decision makers who put those resources, the airtime, the column inches towards covering soccer. And the thing that I would like to see the New York folks actually pay attention to, and other cities too, is that ratings are good, views are good, and that's why content continues to grow. It's not rocket science. Like those decision makers here in Atlanta didn't do that because they had an agenda to make soccer a big thing. They saw that soccer could be a big thing for them, and it's business. It's a business decision. The problem that I have with it at this point is you've got people in New York who are not making a good business decision. Soccer can be an asset to those newspapers, to those radio stations, to local TV. It can be an asset and bring them listeners, readers, eyeballs. It's showing here, 100%. The numbers are validating those decisions. So when you get into boxing, it creates this weird conundrum because you have a lot of people who are these decision makers who have been in these roles for a long time in a lot of cases, not all. You have some new blood coming through, but newspapers, for example, generally you have people who have been around the game for a long time. Boxing, let's go back to the Tyson era, and that's the last time that it felt this way to me, on a regular basis, was a huge deal. Go further back, it's an even bigger deal. And there's still that idea, I think, for people who have been doing this for a long time that, oh, it's a big fight. Yep, we got to put everything towards it. It's a big fight. It's a big fight. It's a big fight. It's what we do. It's a big fight. You throw everything at it. That hasn't changed yet. There's not as many big fights as there used to be. So maybe it's even more of a, oh, this is the only big fight. Let's throw everything we have at it. It is a little surprising because it feels outdated. And when you throw this at it, and there was a lot of interest in this fight this weekend. That's legit. And there was a lot of legit interest. I mean, outside of the outlets pushing it, I saw a lot of people talking about it. So, all right. The problem is, from a soccer perspective, there are people who are hungry for it. The numbers here in Atlanta are showing that if you cover it, you will be rewarded for it. But you have people who are thinking from an outdated perspective of, oh, it's a big fight, we got to throw everything at it. Oh, it's soccer. No, that's not a big deal. We're not going to put anything towards it. And it's bad business. Not to say that throwing everything at the fight is bad business, because you might be rewarded for it because it was probably the big fight of the year. But to not cover soccer in a decent way, let alone a good way, it's bad business for these outlets at this point. And I don't want to hear the nonsense that it's not, and especially I don't want to hear that nonsense from soccer fans. Because I've seen that a bunch in the New York area, and I don't know, maybe it's just you've been beaten down by all this, and It's just, well, this is just what it is. MLS isn't that big of a deal. If it gets covered like a big deal, it's a big deal. Crazy how that happens, right? When a big fight gets covered like it's a big deal, becomes a big deal. When a big trade gets covered like a big deal, it's a big deal. When you have the major outlets tell you that it's not a big deal, even if you're a soccer fan and you know it's a bigger deal than they are telling you, I guess at some point you just get fooled and you get beaten down by it and you say, yeah, it's not that big of a deal. It's not going to do anything for them. That's not the case here at all. And no, Atlanta's not New York, but I don't think it's that different. That I remember everybody saying that, well, when college football starts, nobody's going to pay any attention to Atlanta United. That wasn't the case. I remember everybody saying, like, oh, well, the Braves are good, so nobody's going to pay any attention to Atlanta United. Well, that's not the case. Like, oh, well, it's just the new thing in town. It's gonna drop off. Nobody's going to be reading it in a couple of years. Well, that's not the case. So all those things have shown you that all those old school ways of thinking are gone. Bye. Adios. It's a new world. You could actually cover something that people are interested in. Crazy. And if New York's not going to do it, I'll tell you what'll happen. The first one of those newspapers that actually covers it in the right way, the first one of those radio stations that covers it in the right way, will see the benefit from it. Because you don't have multiple newspapers here, but the other side of it, yeah, you can see it. Public ratings are out there, and, there's a thing. So if one of these outlets gets on it, then they're going to benefit, and the others are going to play catch-up. And that's the reality of the situation. So who's going to have the guts to go out and do it first? Whoever does in New York will absolutely see the benefit from it.
Point 2 from Turner.
Well, do you have
Can't
thoughts
even
on
get
that?
him
Because this is kind of in your wheelhouse.
Well, we went over it last week. We went into the top 10 markets, and we went over the coverage there. And I know that Ricky Ricardo wants us to go over the other franchises that aren't in top 10 markets. But, we talked about New York City. L.A., you have Kevin Baxter, Spectrum Sportsnet, radio, it's not even really there. Chicago, hopefully what we're seeing with WGN will boost what's going on with Chicago Fire as a part of their coming back into town. Philadelphia, you have Tannenwald, and you have him. I mean, oh goodness gracious! If you don't follow him on Twitter, must follow, because he's a tremendous resource for the sport. Dallas, we mentioned the question marks that are there. I think that with the Dallas Morning News, if somebody hopped on there, you'd see an uptick. You'd see an increase in coverage. San Jose, because you're San Jose and you're not San Francisco, it's an issue. DC, hopefully with what's going on with 24/7, with what used to be News Channel 8, the new TV deal, hopefully that will help things along. And if you're not following Stephen Goff on Twitter, you need to. Houston, other than Cube 57, there's nothing there except for our friend Glenn Davis, who is a beacon in Houston, no doubt. Follow him on Twitter as well. New England, we mentioned what's going on with NBC Sports Boston, and then Atlanta. So you're just even going through those top 10 markets, you see that there are holes. You see that there are opportunities, and you'd like to have those top 10 markets and the other ones that are below that going from market 13 to 37 and the 3 Canadian markets. The first one that hops in should get that benefit, and that's where people will go, and you continue to hit that as hard as possible. And it's a no-brainer, but to me, as I'm sitting here and pounding my desk about it this morning already, it's a no-brainer to attach yourself to something like this, to be the first one in the door, to be that source where everybody goes, to be that lighthouse. It makes too much sense with something that is growing as quickly. I'm not going to say, well, quickly is not the right word necessarily, but for something that is growing as consistently as soccer is right now. You're the first one in the door. People will go see you. If you do it, if you cover it, and you're consistent about it, you give it the coverage that it deserves, why wouldn't you Why wouldn't you do it? I guess that's the rhetorical question here that it has an easy answer. Why wouldn't you do it? Because of where the sport is these days. Do it! That's the answer!
No. Why wouldn't people do it? Because a lot of people don't. I mean, let's be real. You have 3 major papers in New York. Nobody's covering any of these teams. You have 2 major sports talk stations. Neither one's doing anything about it. New York's not the only place that's happening. So what's happening here is an outlier. Why don't others do it?
I think that it has to do with being stuck in old ideas and thought patterns that you're going with what has happened in the past. Let's take New York for your example. Let's just start there. In New York, Yankees, Mets, Knicks, Rangers. Because of that long-time established fan base, regardless of success, that's what you're going to stick with. The Devils are an afterthought. The Red Bulls are on MSG Plus, and I don't think
here's the thing I would say to that.
Yeah,
you could have said the same thing here about Georgia football, about the Falcons, about SEC in general. That they're the heavyweights. So
True.
Why would you put resources towards covering a soccer team in that town? It's not going to matter. And that's what a lot of people said when outlets did put resources towards it. Was it's not the Falcons, it's not college football, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. So, I mean, you can still do it. Atlanta's shown that, okay, the Yankees, I mean, I would assume that the Yankees are the biggest property in New York. Is that
Yep.
accurate?
Yankees, Knicks. Yeah, Yankees,
Okay.
Knicks.
So, and the Knicks have been garbage for a long time. When they get good, we'll see what it's like. But the Yankees drive the town. Okay, that's fine. There's still plenty of room. Because I think where this gets twisted is nobody's asking right now for New York City FC to be covered in the same way that the Yankees are. The Yankees have a century plus of history. The Yankees have a building full of trophies. So, yeah, they're in a different class. That's fine. But people are asking for New York City to be covered like the Rangers, the Devils, teams like that, look, New York City's outdrawn for 5 years. You can't even pull that argument. And this is what drove me nuts back in the day was, when pro soccer draws numbers like these other teams, then we'll cover it. Well, in Atlanta they did, and props to the AJC, but New York City has drawn over 21,000 people every year since they started in 2015. Why aren't they getting covered at all? It's because people who are key decision makers are making bad decisions.
That's exactly right.
It's just flat out there. Whoever has the guts to get out of their own way, get out of their own head, and get into 2020 and realize that there is a market, and most importantly, there is financial value to covering it, because that's what will ultimately make the difference. And that's why when Doug mentions subscribers to the HAC, 100%. If the subscribers aren't there, if the financial value is not there, that will affect coverage. It has to. From a radio station standpoint, and this is the one that I just don't get. You have most major cities have at least 2 sports talk stations, right?
Yeah, 2, sometimes 3, depending on who you attach to.
2.
Yeah.
Well, anytime you have more than one, you have competition.
Mm-hmm.
How do you win a competition? You differentiate yourself.
Yep.
You find something that the other one is not doing, and you serve a part of the audience that they are not serving. And what should happen if you cover it well and you show that, yes, we are covering this, we want you to come join us, and we're not just covering it to put it in a silo, and we're not just putting a show on a weekend or on a late night. We are doing this team justice by the way we talk about it. What happens when you do that? People stick around and they listen to other parts of the day, and they become a fan of your station, and your numbers go up, and your ratings go up. And when that happens, you start to win that battle, and you start to make more money, and everything else happens. It's not rocket science. So newspapers, look, they don't have to make competitive decisions. Radio stations, I mean, come on. It should be a no-brainer. Now, the flip side, the teams have to make it easy for these outlets to cover them. And that's something that I think there's a lot of teams that can do a better job. It's something Atlanta United's done a great job with. It's something most of the new teams have done a great job with. And it's something that all teams need to do a better job with, because you can always get better. You have to make those connections. You have to make it personal for people to talk about your team. You have to. That's a must. And when people get the opportunity to go out and do these interviews and do these hits, you have to understand your audience. You have to understand your audience, and you have to work at cultivating that audience. And I think it's something that we've been really lucky to see here in Atlanta grow. What Doug gets at the AJC, I don't think, even Goff, even Tannenwald, even Baxter, those are the main ones right now. I don't think they get the amount of space that Doug gets here in Atlanta.
Nope, I think you're right.
Because the numbers back it up. You have to keep at it. You have to keep growing it. And when you see this, if you are a soccer fan, you have to keep pushing for it and pushing for more, and making sure that the people making these decisions, these key decision makers, know that you are consuming their product because of what they do for soccer. 100%. That's how it changes. And it's year 25 of the league. It's a different type of situation for this league. It's not 1996. It's not 2006. It's not even 2016. It's a whole different era for this league, and it's something that 100% deserves more coverage, deserves more respect from some of the people who do cover it, Sports Center, and
yes,
it's a must. And when it doesn't happen, it needs to be called out, but when it happens in a positive way, it needs to be celebrated. And it's something that the league will continue to battle, because there are still people in decision-making roles who are stuck in an old-school mindset. But if you're in a competitive situation and you're trying to get eyeballs, listeners, views to improve your product, to improve your position, to sell advertising, because that's what it comes down to, you're going to look for something that can differentiate you from your competitors. And when you cover soccer effectively and your competitors aren't, it's a no-brainer that you are going to benefit from it. It is honestly that simple. That was a long-winded answer to boxing, but there you go.
No, but it needed to be said, because I'm with you 100%. I'm with you 100% on what you broke down. And for those that haven't seen Roberto's thread, it's a must read from the weekend. But it's all
part of it, and boxing gets that coverage because of history. Mm-hmm. Maybe not so much current, but history. A big fight's a big fight. I think sometimes they try to create a big fight when it's not a big fight.
Agreed.
I mean, there's been some that have gotten a lot of coverage that I'm just like, I don't know who these people are. I don't get it. That's an old school way of thinking, because boxing has historically been a big deal. It's nowhere near the big deal it used to be. UFC has come in and gotten coverage in a way, doing something new that I would love to see MLS get that kind of space for coverage. And I hope that they can. And I hope that they're also paying attention to some of the things that other folks are doing to get coverage. And keep coverage is the key. It's one thing to get somebody out to try it. You got to keep them, and you got to keep giving them information to be able to cover you effectively.
When you have entrenched decision makers, and that's the word that I'll use, the adjective, who are locked into their ways of thinking in major media markets, they're going to, unless they see something in a ratings dip or a revenue dip or something, they're going to continue to stay in that track. It is going to take something that is going to be that slap in the face for somebody to sit there and go outside their lane and figure out something new. And that's, to me, that's a big part of the process, is having these experienced individuals who think that sticking with what has always been there, that is what is going to help drive consistent success, even if it doesn't. And that's, to me, it's just having that experience locked in place and not thinking about how you can advance what's going on inside your under your roof. That to me has been a big part of it.
We'll see, and I hope it changes, and it needs to. It needs to in some of these markets, and whoever jumps on it in New York will benefit from it, because there's a coalition of soccer fans that are waiting for somebody to do it. And look, soccer fans are loyal. If you cover it effectively and you cover it with respect, whichever one of those papers jumps on it, whichever one of those radio stations jumps on it, they will see a benefit. They will 100% see a benefit, and they'll probably see some people, especially on the sports talk side, who were not part of the sports talk listening audience because they wanted soccer talk. They might like other sports too, and trust me, not all soccer fans are only soccer fans. I think we're seeing that here in Atlanta. That old school stereotype can be gone. But you've got a lot of people who just don't consume that kind of content because they don't expect to ever hear about a sport that they care about. And if they know that one of these outlets is going to cover it in a respectful way with a good bit of content, with a lot of different kinds of content, they're going to become loyal fans of your station, of your outlet, of your newspaper, of your TV station. And you're going to benefit. It's just that simple, and I'm surprised that more people haven't realized that by this point.
Turner Kirby, his second point, he says, can't even get a mention unless it's a controversy, like we're seeing with the Astros, and soccer doesn't even get that leniency. Turner wants to know what...
hold on one second. I think baseball's in a different class than what soccer gets and what boxing gets. I do think baseball gets a lot of talk, but I think it has... It's kind of funny that baseball is maybe one that has changed a bit with the way just baseball has changed. It's an older audience now. It's not as big of a deal with a younger audience as it used to be. And I don't know where that coverage time and space is going. And I think it widely varies market to market, because I feel like newspapers are still big on soccer coverage. On baseball coverage, maybe more so than the audience demands. I don't know. I might be wrong there, but maybe football has taken it in some other mediums with the growth of how big not just the NFL but college football is, and maybe it's taken some of the coverage time away from baseball. I'm not sure. I think baseball is in a much different class than soccer or anything else in that regard, outside of football. I think it's football. It gets, definitely in our neck of the woods, it does. Football gets the most coverage. Baseball's second.
I think that the further west you go, the less football is thought of.
But then what replaces it?
It's baseball right now.
Because I don't think basketball is getting that yet. Some markets, yes, like Los Angeles with the Lakers, I think is a little bit different situation. But I mean, I think baseball's still a behemoth, and especially with older decision makers that have grown up with it and go back to the history of it, which it has a rich history, and that's what helps it, and that's what gives it something that other sports don't have. But I think in 20 years' time, it's going to look very different.
Turner wants to know, what would it take for out-of-nowhere coverage like that to happen with MLS?
I think Lionel Messi signing with the league. I think, to a lesser extent, Cristiano Ronaldo signing with the league, because they got that when David Beckham signed. Well, they got absolute out-of-nowhere coverage when that happened. I mean, obviously you can go into negative controversies that would get coverage, but I don't think they would get that same kind of coverage, and I don't think there's an Astros-like controversy that would really apply here. I think, honestly, it's probably a Lionel Messi. It's probably a World Cup semifinal run for the U.S. men. Those are probably the big things out there that would get that kind of coverage.
Turner understands soccer isn't a popular sport in the quote-end quote minor/retirement league narrative, but I wouldn't think boxing is a popular sport in this country. But this Fury Wilder fight comes up, and boxing is the most important sport on the planet, seemingly, and it seems everyone's interested in watching it. Hashtag Monday Musings.
Well, there's a couple different elements to it. So boxing is an event thing now. It's not something that, I guess, outside of the hardest of the hardcore, follow on a regular basis. It's a big event. So it's in a different class, for one. In the past, maybe it was, I mean, in my lifetime, paying attention to this stuff, maybe in the Tyson era, you had enough fighters that had, interest. You had enough fights on a regular basis that had an interest.
Yeah, multiple weight classes and everything.
Yeah, I mean, you still had a lot of things going on a regular basis. Now it's just a big event a few times a year. That's really what it's turned into. So it's different. I completely disagree that soccer is not a popular sport. I think some people will try to tell you that, but look, the numbers tell you differently. I mean, it's not drawing the TV ratings that it needs to start drawing. That's something that the league and the TV partners have to work together to grow. They've been steady. It hasn't dropped like a lot of sports have. It is steady because there's still a lot of room to grow, and it needs to grow. And that's going to take a lot of work from all of the people involved in it to do that. That's absolutely something that needs to happen. But the attendances, and it's something that empty seats picks will try to make a big thing out of, but they should do an empty seats picks in Mexico City and try to tell people that soccer's not a big deal there when they show some empty seats at the Estadio Azteca, which seats a ridiculous amount of people, and they might draw 50,000 people, and there's some empty seats. And, oh, gosh, soccer's lost its popularity in Mexico. Shut it all down. Bunch of nonsense. The attendance for MLS is good. There's room to grow in markets, for sure. There's markets that are doing great. That's pretty much any sport, right? Outside of the NFL, which is going to sell just about every ticket it has. And even that, we're starting to see Atlanta, some others where you might have sold the tickets, but people aren't coming because the product is not good at times. That happens. That's sports. The NFL's been the one that's probably been the most resistant to it. College football and in the heritage schools has probably been the strongest in keeping a crowd and keeping a strong crowd on a regular basis. But watch some midweek baseball games. It's empty. Watch some midweek basketball games, hockey games. It's empty. Some teams that are good on weekends, it's still not a good crowd. Like, that's sports. That's what happens. So I think MLS is right there with hockey, basketball, baseball. Market to market, there's differences. Baseball has history that the others don't have. The Lakers have something special in LA that I'm trying to think of a comparison. The Grizzlies don't have, I mean, you have exceptions in markets for sure. There's some markets that have a huge hockey following that other markets don't have. But soccer's right there in that mix. So it should get more coverage than it does. And I think it's down to outdated decision makers who are just not getting it. And I think it's also down to people putting themselves out there to give you this coverage in a professional way. Not from a fan perspective, but from a media perspective. There's a difference. And I think when you get more of that on the soccer side, you'll get more coverage because you've got to convince those decision makers that it fits. You know, I mean, you've got to convince somebody at WFAN in New York that having a segment talking about New York City and the Red Bulls is going to fit into their general show talking about New York sports. It's got to fit into the conversation. So whoever goes in there to do that has to hold their own and be able to make that fit and make that work and convince the decision makers to do it again and then do it again and then do it again and then sell advertising to do that spot. And there you go.
And I would think that you're also courting younger demographics, which would be key for longer maintained sustainability for whatever it is, radio, TV, sports, specialty shows, networks, newspapers, those kinds of things. I would think that wanting to court a younger demo as a part of your base would help your sustainability long term.
You would think, but a lot of these decision makers don't think long term. And you know that. I mean, it's a lot of these people are thinking very, very short term. And it hurts them in the long run if they're not able to adjust. The ones who do think long term are the ones who are winning.
Allison Cupertino this morning, she says a key component, in her opinion, for increasing market visibility for a team is engagement. Coverage is one-sided. People interested who follow a sport get the info they need. True engagement, like we're lucky to have here in Atlanta, is what draws more people in and gets more attention.
Yeah, it's the key. You have to make it a conversation, and that's down. That's a next level thing, honestly, in my opinion, because you need both. You've got to have the coverage to where somebody who hasn't grown up in the soccer world, like some of us, not all of us, but some of us, somebody who hasn't grown up in that world, when they see, you know, a segment on 92.9 The Game with Chip Carey of the Braves, right? And they're talking about the Braves spring training. When you have a segment with Mike or me on talking about Atlanta United in preseason, okay. In some ways, having both of those in the same show, it, you know, validates it in some way that, okay, hey, we're talking about soccer just like we're talking about baseball. It's preseason. Cool. Both teams getting ready. All right, I get it. That's a big part of it. But the next level is the engagement, and that's down to different outlets. And this can get broader than the mainstream media places. I think, you know, they obviously want engagement as well, and the ones that have engagement and do it strongly benefit from it. But this also goes down to blogs, podcasts, anybody who's putting content out there. The more you can engage with people who are consuming your content, the more you'll benefit from it. And most importantly, the more you'll have an impact on growing the topic that you are covering. And I mean, I can just speak for myself in this regard when it comes to this stuff. There is, and John, you're getting weird staticky again, and I don't know what's going on with your phone. I'm going to mute you real quick. You're when you do this stuff, and in whatever form you do it, there's a responsibility, at least I feel like there is for me. I take it on that there's a responsibility to do it in, I think, the right way. Yes, to cover what's going on. Yes, to talk about what's going on. But yes, also to grow the game. Because for me, the game has given me everything. So I want to give back to it. And I want it to grow. And I want it to be bigger and be in a better place than it was when I got a microphone put in front of me or got a keyboard put in front of me and I get to write something about it or talk about it. I think there is a responsibility to do things in a professional way, even if you're not a professional. I think just to do things in the right way. I think that's what it comes down to. And the people who do and the people who I think bigger about their communities and their markets and putting the right vibe out, the right, engagement out with their listeners and readers. I think being open to having that, and look, not everybody is, and I get it. People have different kinds of voices. For me, it was always about creating a conversation, and I know that I've benefited from it. And I think it's hopefully, helped with people finding the content, but I also hope that it's created engaging content. But there is a responsibility, I think, to serving the audience and what the audience wants and what the audience needs, and finding that balance between the way you want to do it and what the audience wants and needs, and what the community in terms of the game and in your market wants and needs. I think where you can find the sweet spot with all of that, you'll find success. And there's people out there doing this in different parts of the country and doing it very, very well. And there's some who haven't gotten the opportunity to get that big microphone in front of them or that big keyboard with a bigger outlet in front of them to be able to have more people find their content. That's what has to change in these other markets. But if you create a following, a community with what you're doing, you'll be in a much better place to grow. And it's essential. Engagement is absolutely essential.
Jim Lepp has come in this morning. Am I any better? First off.
Yes, you're good.
Okay. Jim Lepp says that he believes the conversation in Atlanta would be different if not for the weight Arthur Blank has in the market. In 100%. Comparison, only a few markets have ownership with that media cred. Arthur Blank from the onset said it would be big. The media had to cover. Once the product matched the casual public embrace, it'll be interesting to see after Arthur Blank, when a disappointing season occurs, how the media and public respond.
But I don't think it's that simple. And I have to disagree with Jim that, I don't think a bad season means the coverage is going to go away. I think you're so far past that. And it doesn't matter who's in charge, because let's be real about this. Robert Kraft is kind of a big deal in New England. He hasn't gotten this kind of coverage just because it's Robert Kraft's team. Now, Robert Kraft has treated it very differently, yes. But there's a lot of owners that are a big deal that haven't gotten this kind of coverage in their communities. LAFC, how many owners do they have? And
40.
Big owners that are big deals, and big deals in that community. I mean, Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson runs LA. And LAFC can't get regular sports talk conversation and can't get regular coverage in the LA Times. They don't have their own beat writer. The soccer beat writer for the Times covers both and probably covers the Galaxy a little more closely than LAFC. So that's not necessarily a guarantee. People still have to take the chance. With 92.9 The Game, for example, it was not part of the Falcons' contract that Atlanta United got covered on 92.9 The Game. There was nothing about it, and there's never been anything about, from an editorial perspective, that, we have to cover it because of the Falcons. That's never happened. It's been because the decision makers at 92.9 The Game have put the coverage towards it, and they've seen the benefits from it. And that's the most important part of it. So I really do think there's no more things out there that you have to be afraid of in Atlanta. And we can get out of that now, y'all. We can. A bad season's not going to mean that radio coverage goes away, that the newspaper coverage goes away. Like we were talking about the Knicks. The Knicks get all kinds of coverage in New York, and they've been bad for a long time. There's plenty of things to talk about when it's bad.
And that's the thing, is that the folks in New York treat the dumpster fire as equally as they do great success when it comes to their on-air product.
They probably treat the dumpster fire as a bigger deal than the success, sadly.
Lieutenant Dave this morning says the popularity, in quotation marks, of boxing compared to soccer has more to do with betting versus fan bases. Go to Vegas for a big fight, it's the money. The XFL's latched onto betting to bolster its brand and popularity.
That's a good point. XFL is a little different because it's so young. We'll come back to that in a second. The big event side of it is part of it because you're not committing to following boxing week in, week out. You can drop in, okay, it's two guys. I'm going to pick one that I like. Cool, I'm going to watch the fight. You get all the hype and talk and all that beforehand that sucks you in. So I get it. Growing up watching pro wrestling, I completely get the idea of hyping a fight. And boxing, in the fights that are compelling, do a great job of it. Now, the betting is a huge part of it. And again, it's an easy thing to bet. At a very simplistic level of who's going to win the fight, period. Picking one or the other. Done. It is a 50-50. So if you're not a big-time boxing aficionado, you don't have a whole lot of information about the way they fight, you can pick one of the two guys, and that's who you bet on. That simple. And anytime you have a little bit of money on something, or juice boxes, or whatever you want to put on it, it's a little more interesting. That's just a fact. It happens. So boxing capitalizes on that. Now the XFL and sports in general, and the XFL is the new kid on the block in this regard. Sports in general are embracing gambling more because, one, it's more legal than it's ever been in more places than it's ever been. And, the NCAA basketball tournament, the pools that go on with that, that's why a lot of people who don't really follow college basketball on a daily basis get sucked into the NCAA tournament because you're picking a bunch of teams. NFL, whether you want to get into fantasy football, whether you want to get into, your parlays, I don't remember what they're called, where you'd pick a bunch of games on a sheet each week, and people will do that in their workplaces. It's a huge element of it, and it's why a lot of people stay engaged with the NFL as a whole, and that's why it is the behemoth in American professional sports. It's something that MLS and I think the NBA are both kind of figuring out the new way of doing business in this regard, and they will benefit from it. They will absolutely benefit from it because it creates interest, and the important thing is it creates interest in a sport like this that is trying to get you, the viewer of, or the hardcore fan of one team, to watch the big national match on Sunday between two other teams. That's the next step for MLS. The NFL, a lot of people will watch whatever NFL game is on nationally, period, because they either have something on it or they've got a fantasy player in it and they're watching it because it's just the big thing and there's some rooting interest, even if it's not their team. Right now, other sports and all other sports, MLS included, are trying to find ways to get people interested in games not involving their team. And that's the next step. And gambling's one element of it. Let's take a quick break. We'll get into more on the Twitter timeline on a manic Monday that is all over the place. I like it. The Bengals would be very proud of us. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinski of Apolinski & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2 of Soccer Down Here, February 24th. It's a hashtag Manic Monday because the topics are all over the place. It's been very interesting this morning.
It's a good thing.
CONCACAF Champions League tomorrow, 8 o'clock in Kennesaw, Fifth Third Bank Stadium. It will be on FS1 in English. It will be on TUDN in Spanish. It will be on 92.9 The Game, on Atlanta Radio, also the radio.com app. 7:30 starts our coverage with the Five Stripes Countdown. We'll have the full-time report for an hour following the final whistle. And Atlanta comes in with the away goal tiebreaker. They scored once on the road. It's 1-1. Basically, your scenario is this. If it ends scoreless, Atlanta goes through on the away goal tiebreaker. If it ends 1-1, going to penalties because it is level on away goals. If it is 2-2 or any larger draw, Motagua would advance based off the away goal tiebreaker. Any win at all, Atlanta goes through. Motagua, any win, and yeah, they would go through. So that's where you're at. Pretty simple.
All right. Let's see. Since you started talking about CONCACAF Champions League, let me go to our CONCACAF Champions League question that's on the board this morning. All right, so it's more of a statement. Jeremy York on the hashtag Manic Monday and our friends at Impact. He says, "Morning, sirs. Seems like the early round CONCACAF and solid signings have sparked early and big interest with Five Stripes fans." He has a prediction for later today. He says, West Ham edges Liverpool later today. Thoughts, or am I crazy? Have a good day. Jeremy, you're crazy.
Yes, he's crazy about what exactly?
West Ham edging Liverpool later today.
Oh, that's pretty crazy, yes. That's pretty nuts.
But yeah, his CONCACAF comment, CONCACAF and signings have sparked early interest with Five Stripes fans.
I think the interest is there. That's the thing, is that I don't think you have to have anything to spark interest anymore. I mean, the conversation all offseason about moves, and there's always something. So it doesn't feel any different. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, is that you have games, so people are excited. CONCACAF, people are taking it very seriously, and people are very interested, and that's as it should be. I don't think it's anything now in Atlanta that you need something to spark the interest. I think the interest is just there. Season gets started, the interest jumps, just like it would for anything else. It's good.
Ryan wants to talk MLS fantasy because he got his prize from the @Jason Wright AGEN on Twitter for being a top finisher last year.
All right.
John has no idea what that is.
Yeah, I do. That's McConaughey.
Oh, yeah, you know those parts. My bad.
Yeah, the McConaughey parts of the movie I get, but MLS fantasy, that sounds like something we probably need to do a lot of later in the week as well.
Why later in the week? Why not now?
We can do it. We can do it now. It's fine with me.
You probably already have your team, right?
No, not at the moment.
What?
I do not have my team squared away yet.
What?
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, led astray, run amok, and flat out deceived.
We have been.
Because I pick players that are not in this league and put them on my roster because I want to in a financial sense.
Yeah, I'm going to warn you right now that when you pick your team, don't put Kamar Lawrence on it. He was in there when I picked my team. It was a little scary. I immediately freaked out for John's sake. It was upsetting.
All right, so for those who have not signed up, how do they sign up?
Go to @Jason Wright AGEN on Twitter. Go to Jason Wright Agency on Facebook. Follow the link on how to sign up. You will fill out a sign-up form, and when you complete it, it will take you to pick your team. It's really that simple. Super easy. So go follow that link, get signed up. We've got some folks that found it over the weekend. Go do this so then you can beat John in fantasy.
That shouldn't be too hard.
Especially if he picks Carlos Gruezo again.
Yeah. I was thinking maybe Tyler Adams.
Yeah. No, you can pick Kamar Lawrence, and I'm really afraid you're going to.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll pick Kamar Lawrence then. I'll do that. MLS Fantasy. Up top, probably, and now considering that it's, you have to manage things well. I mean, you got to figure out.
It's different now. There's some different changes this time around. I was trying to find the breakdown on what's changed actually, because when I picked my team, I was a little surprised at the way the cap actually worked. I was able to pretty much pick whoever I wanted to pick.
There you go.
Which was nice. No, not there you go. That's not necessarily good because then everybody can just pick the 11 best players. I think you have to be a little more creative. I know one thing that's changed is you don't get double match week bonus. Like you don't get both games counting for the player. I don't know if it's the first game that counts for the player or you get to pick which game counts for the player. The better game counts for the player. I don't know. But you're not getting 2 games worth of points. So, and they've changed a few other things. So get caught up on the fantasy rules. Go put your team together. Go join the league so we can laugh when John picks Tony Miola in goal.
I can do that?
You could probably find a way.
Okay, just checking because if I can get Tony Miola, and maybe if I picked up Dunny, can I pick Dunny too?
Sure, they're not going to get you any points. Yeah.
Okay.
You use $125 million in salary, 15-man roster. You can change your formation to whatever you want. There is a Fantasy Champions League that MLS is doing, which is kind of interesting. The first 24 weeks of the season split up into 4 qualifiers. The top 50 across all of MLS Fantasy from each qualifier will advance into the Fantasy Champions League, where they have a chance to win $5,000 in prizes. That'll be taking place over the final 8 weeks of the 2020 season. Pretty interesting. Fixed budget. So, gone are the days of your budget rising or falling based on how your players perform. Instead, your budget is fixed at $125 million for the entire MLS season. Period. So, this should offer managers plenty of great chances to create great squads at the beginning of the season, but as players' prices rise, it will become harder and harder to get all the players you want. Very interesting, so you got to stay on top of it. Here's the double game week scoring thing. So, you don't get both matches. Only the player's highest score between the 2 matches will count. So it's not an automatic given that you should just pick somebody because they play 2 games that week. Now, you will get, basically, if they have 1 bad game and 1 good game, then cool, you get the good game. But that's it. So, pretty cool. Some little tweaks to it. I like the budget thing because it makes it a little more strategic as you get later in the season.
Okay, so what's the name of the league?
John, just go fill out the form. You don't have to go look up the league.
I did fill out the form.
Then just do your team. Not right now because we have a show to do.
Oh, okay.
But yes, you just pick your team and you're in the league. It's that simple.
Well, okay.
It didn't send you to look up a league. You're trying to do things differently.
Because I was trying to look up the Soccer Down Here league, and it said
John. All you do is fill out the form, and you click the link, and you go pick your team, and then you're in the league.
Okay. All right.
The
So
link
apparently,
is a private link to send you to the league.
Okay. That's where I was. All right.
See, you just follow the instructions. All you got to do, and you're set.
Okay. So I have followed the instructions, and so I'm guessing I'm now in the league.
Well, you got to pick your team, but yes.
Wow. $125 million instead of $100 million this year, huh?
Hi, Dios mío. Yes, we just talked about that.
Okay. All right. So now I'm in the league. So there we go.
You just made the list.
I've been on the list ever since the show started. There, Sparky. Never trust a wrestler who wears a scarf.
So you don't trust Jericho or MJF?
No, I do not.
Okay.
No. And I was pleased that Arn Anderson hit MJF with the door of the cage last week.
Do you trust anybody who wears a scarf?
I trust people who wear scarves. I just don't trust wrestlers who wear scarves.
All right, fair enough.
That's what I said. Don't trust a wrestler who wears a scarf.
Just making sure.
All right. Let's see. Let's see what's next on the list. Ben Grabowski on the top 5 article that was posted at MLSsoccer.com.
The
on
top 5 players at each position, yes.
Yes. The hashtag Manic Monday says he'd love to hear our thoughts on the article. Robinson and Joseph are the only Atlanta players in the top 5 by position around the league. Question mark, exclamation point, question mark. Not even a mention for Barca or Pitti, question mark. Feel a few others deserve a mention as well.
Sweep the leg. You have a problem with that, no sensei? No mercy.
About right.
Let's see where to start. Goalkeeper Matt Turner number 2 and Steve Clark number 4 and Brad Gazan not in the top 5. I will try to understand that. I'll try. Right back, because that's where I would probably put Franco Escobar, although if you want to argue they're going to play a 3-4-3 most of the season, you'd put him at center back. As a right back, Julian Gressel is the second best right back. One, he doesn't play that position. If you want to include wing backs in this conversation, okay, probably should say that. But even still, Gressel ahead of Metanire, Leerdam, and Cannon, woof, and Escobar nowhere in that. But if you want to think he's a center back, okay, I can roll with that one at least. Left back. Okay, there's nobody from Atlanta that should be in that mix. Jordan Harvey at number 4, when Jordan Harvey probably won't even be the starter for LAFC, is a little baffling. But anyway. Center back, Ike Opara, Miles Robinson, Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, Lalas Abubakar. I think Abubakar is too high. I am not getting the crazy conversation about Lalas Abubakar at this point around this league. The idea that he should go for $1 million in allocation money, and he didn't go for anywhere near that. Man, he is hyped up. I don't think he's the 5th best center back in this league. It's kind of a joke. It says, I'm all ready for the cries of, how could you leave off Eddie Segura? I will cry. How could you leave off Eddie Segura instead of Lalas Abubakar? I don't get it. Opara 1, Robinson 2. That's fine. Say it again, John.
Or Maxime Chanot as a part of that parenthetical
Maxime Chanot's not in that conversation for me. He's not. Alexander Callens is in that conversation from NYC before Maxime Chanot. But Opara 1, Robinson 2, Long 3, Zimmerman 4. I'm good with that. I'm good with that order. That's all fine. Defensive midfielder, Alexander Ring, number 1. Yes. Edward Atuesta, number 2. Yes. Diego Chara, 3. I might go Jonathan Dos Santos 3 instead, but that's fine. He's 4. Thiago Santos, who's new to the league, at number 5. That feels like a bit of a jump. Osvaldo Alonso should be yelling horrible things. Jan Gregush, if you want to put him in this conversation, he could be yelling horrible things in a different language. Harris Medunjanin has been known to yell horrible things, and he probably would be doing this because you're putting a guy in Thiago Santos who hasn't played in the league yet. I would want to wait and see just a little bit in that role, and there's other good players. Central midfielder. Now, the way it's divided up from here is central midfielder, which is maybe where you want to put Gregush. Okay, fine. Then attacking midfielder. Then your wings, then your forward. Okay, so central midfielder should be your number 8. You've got Mark Anthony Kaye, Darlington Nagbe, Alejandro Bedoya, Jan Gregush, Safir Taider. All right. It's not bad. That's not bad. I'm not going to argue too much with it. Attacking midfielder. This would be your number 10. Maxi Morales, Nico Ladero, Carlos Gil, Alejandro Pozuelo, Diego Valeri. So no Pity Martinez, no Ezequiel Barco in here. Okay. If you want to argue it that the production hasn't been there from them and they're not producing like these other guys, I can roll with that argument. If you're going by talent and you're including players who are brand new to the league, then it's a little bit different conversation to me. I think Pity should be in this conversation. If you want to say that Barco is more of a winger, I disagree, but there are a lot of people who will put him there. He's not in the left wing conversation either. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. That's a little surprising to me. Morales should be the number 1 based off what he did last year. He was incredible last year. Ladero, you might even argue that Ladero ends up becoming more of a central midfielder going forward. Gil is featured in a really smart way by Bruce Arena, because I thought where Gil was his best was as a right winger who tucked inside, so it was a little bit harder to account for him, and teams struggled with that at times. Pozuelo, kind of same thing. He's actually better out wide. As a number 10, no, I don't think he's on this list. He's better in a wide position when he comes inside to do his damage because he's typically unmarked. Valeri, if he can remain where he's been, he'll be in this mix. 33, I think he's slipping a little. Will he slip off the list? We'll have to wait and see. Right wing, Carlos Vela, Rodolfo Pizarro, Johnny Russell, Albert Ellis, Paul Areola, which is going to be different now. I don't know where Pizarro is going to play for Miami. I think he's probably going to play more central, so that changes this conversation. Vela on the right wing, yeah, he's your best because, again, he's in a free role where he can go wherever he wants from the right wing. Russell's outstanding. Ellis is outstanding. I don't know if I would have put Areola 5 here to begin with. Christian Espinoza of San Jose is one that will be in this conversation for sure. I don't know if Alexander Katai will be. He's listed here. Pavone is on the left wing, and he's number 3 on the list. Diego Rossi, number 1. Jordan Morris, 2. Sebastian Blanco, 4. Daniel Royer, 5. Royer doesn't get enough credit. Royer is an outstanding player in this league. I'd put him higher. I'd put him at least number 4. I would potentially put Christian Pavone number 1 here. And I think by the end of the season, that might end up being the case. Is Pavone 1, Morris 2. We'll see if Rossi is still here by the end of the season. Royer could be all the way as high as 3. Now, striker, it's Joseph Martinez, 1, Raul Ruiz-Diaz, 2, Javier Hernandez, 3, Josie Altidore, 4, Mauro Manotas, 5. I think Jossie Zardes is breaking things. I think Eber's breaking things. I think Kasper Shabilko should be breaking all kinds of things. Kai Kamara, I'll leave off. He's probably breaking things, but he wouldn't be in the conversation for me. Joseph, 1, Ruiz-Diaz, 2. Chicharito could be 3 by the end of the year. I don't know if I'm going to put him there to start. Josie, 4. I'd be worried about injuries to put him that high. I would actually put Shabilko 3. And maybe I'm the captain of the Kasper Shabilko fan club. I don't know, but I think he would be the number 3 guy here for me. Then I'd actually put Zardes 4. And then Chicharito 5. That's where I would go with it. Now, that could change by the end of the year, but right now, I think Zardes is a Golden Boot winner potentially. I think Shabilko is one of the most complete forwards in the league. Joseph and Ruiz-Diaz, I think, are a cut above, and they are 1-2. But beyond that, it's a crapshoot, and you got a bunch of good, talented players that could be there. If Josie stays healthy, yeah, he can be here. If Manotas stays around, he can be here. But I would go Shabilko 3, Zardes 4, Chicharito 5.
Okay.
So my quibble in terms of Atlanta United players would be attacking midfield, and it's not a guarantee because you have talented players in Maxi, in Ladero, in Gil, in Pozuelo, in Valeri. You have very talented players in that mix. But I think Pity should be on that list. And if he's number 5 on the list, that's fine. I think he should be number 5 on the list. Central midfielder, I think that list could have a player by the name of Mateus Rossetto by the end of the season. We have to see. We have to see where he fits, but I think he's going to be in that conversation. I think Joao Paulo from Seattle could be in that conversation by the end of the year as well. And the conversation in the back is going to be based on how you look at a 3-man backline versus a 4-man backline. Escobar, when you factor in what he could give you in totality, if you want to put him at right back or center back, take your pick. I think he's going to be on this list by the end of the season. I think Franco Escobar is going to have a huge year for Atlanta United.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, as I was looking at it, obviously my larger questions were Brad Gazan, and then no Pitti and no Barco, and trying to figure out, from an Atlanta United perspective, where these guys would fit in. But yeah, and when it came to striker, I had Joseph Ruiz, I had Chicharito as a part of the conversation. I too was worried about Josie and injuries, and did not have Manotas top 5. I was looking at Zardes and Eber as 4-5.
Yeah, Eber is the tough one for me. I think Zardes is going to get the bulk of the goals in Columbus, where Eber might have them spread around a little bit more with New York City. So I think that's why I'm going to put Zardes higher on the list, is I think he's the primary guy who's going to find the back of the net for the Crew. Whereas Eber will be one of those guys and be the main guy, but there'll be other people too.
All right, let's see what else is going on the Twitters this morning. Ricky Ricardo. Since MLS is coming back this weekend, what are your 2 or 3 teams you'll be keeping an eye on this year outside of Atlanta? I'm personally interested in seeing how Miami will do on the field after the longest run-up in MLS history, and also year 2 of Almeida in San Jose.
Miami and Nashville because they're new, because there'll be lots of storylines there. Columbus because I think they could be really, really good. Colorado because I want to see if they can continue to build on what they did last season. Orlando because I think Pareja is going to change the culture there, but how long does it take? Minnesota is talking big, so I want to see how Luis Amarilla changes the Loons. Galaxy, obviously, because of Chicharito. I mean, you have to pay attention to that. So Portland, because I think they're a contender in the West. That's what's interesting about this season, is most teams have some kind of an intriguing storyline. Atlanta, a lot of people outside of Atlanta and a lot of people inside of Atlanta look at it as, yeah, you won 2 trophies, but it was a disappointing year in 2019. Are you going to win the MLS Cup again in 2020? Because that's the measure of success. And, I mean, yeah, it is. It is. So are you going to be that team? We'll find out. Chicago, I don't really know how to drill it down into a hype speech. I don't, and that's a problem. Cincinnati, same thing. I would have said that, hey, this is a team that was difficult to break down at the end of last season. They've added a lot of talent. They're going to be much better. I still think they'll be better, but with all the drama off the field, I don't know what that looks like. Colorado is not a team that is sexy at all. Like, you're not getting excited about watching the Colorado Rapids right now, but I think they're going to be really good, and it's an interesting turnaround story after they moved on from Anthony Hudson. Connor Casey was a big part of changing the conversation there, and Robin Fraser is a really good hire and can take it to another level. Columbus, we talked about. I think they're a title contender. I think they're that good potentially. Dallas, all the young players, I think you're always going to keep up with what Dallas is doing if you're a U.S. men's national team fan, because they're developing so many top young players. DC United, how do they bounce back after Lucha Rue is gone, and they've added Gressel, and they've added Edison Flores, and they've brought Yamil Assad back. Ola Kamara, is he going to be a 20-goal scorer in this league? There's storylines in DC. Houston, Tab Ramos, the turnaround under Ramos, and I think actually having a long-term vision, which is something they haven't really had in a while. LAFC, can they be better than they were last year? Or do things get difficult in year 3 for them? We'll find out. Galaxy, Chicharito, enough said. Miami, all of it, every single bit of it. There'll be plenty of things to talk about. Minnesota, can they take the next step, or are they going to fall back? Is Amaria the missing piece for them, or do they have issues going forward? Even Montreal, Thierry Henry. I mean, look, you're going to pay attention. Is Henry going to get the job done? Is he going to fall on his face? Is it going to be somewhere in between? I don't think it's going to be boring at all. Nashville, because they're new, and I think they'll do really well at the gate. I think Nashville is doing a lot of things right. And I think Nashville, for some reason, is being judged very, very harshly on every single thing that they do. And it's kind of sad to see, because a lot of the things that people are saying about Nashville were said about Atlanta years ago. And I think Nashville's going to be just fine. I don't think they're going to be a team drawing 60,000 people a game every game, but I think they're going to be a competitive team. I think they're going to be a team that doesn't lose a bunch of big games. I think they're going to be tough to break down. If they get anybody to step up and be exciting going forward, Nashville can be a team with a higher ceiling than anybody considers. And I like all the stuff they're doing off the field. I mean, everybody's wanted to complain about the color of yellow they've picked and their team song and all these different things. I think it's going to work. Even the song. I mean, people turned into music critics all of a sudden on Judah and the Lion song for them.
Have not heard it yet.
Work. Where have you been, John? It was a big deal. They came out with all their game day traditions and stuff. And look, is all of it going to be there in 5 years? Probably not. Some things will stick, some things won't. That's part of launching a team from scratch. People thought the Golden Spike was silly. It's not. It works. It's part of the game day thing here, and it works. And they've done a really good job with it. Will the Gibson guitar riff be the same thing? Could be. Might not. Might not work. But could be kind of cool. I'm going to go in open-minded with it. And the anthem, the song, if people sing it, it'll be cool. When you get a stadium of 30, 40,000 people singing along to a song, you can make pretty much any song sound cool. You could do Chumbawamba, and it would probably still be cool if you got that many people singing it. So let's relax on judging so harshly on Nashville. I think they're going to be a good addition to the league. I think they're going to have a better year on the field, too, than people are thinking. New England, they're a team that can be in the mix in the East. And I think they're going to be a fun team to watch with Gustavo Bo, the Panther. He's an exciting player. Carlos Heel's an exciting player. New York City is going to be one of the top teams in the East. The Red Bulls are one that I don't know how to sum up the excitement about the Red Bulls, because I don't know what the excitement is. And that's a little surprising for a team that was a Supporter Shield winner 2 years ago. That set a record for best points in a season 2 years ago. To where they are now, I don't know if they make the playoffs. I don't know. If I'm trying to sell somebody, I'm buying tickets for a Red Bulls match, I don't know what to tell them. I really don't. Orlando, there should be excitement in Orlando. You've got a great manager in Pareja. You've got some good new signings that will all of them work out, and we'll have to wait and see. But you at least have somebody who is known for building a club. And that's what Oscar Pareja has done. And I think he'll have that success in Orlando. It just might take a couple of years. But they have more talent now than they've maybe ever had, even going back to year one. So Orlando will be interesting. Philadelphia is a team that, for me, is actually pretty fascinating because they were number 3 last year in the East. I think there's a lot of teams that have stepped up. Philadelphia could potentially be a team that is stepping up with some of the additions they've made, but there's also questions. You know, is not having Harris Medunjanin going to be a problem for them? Are they going to be better with year 2 of Jamiro Montero? The other signings, are they going to elevate this team? Are you going to be basically the same as you were last year? Are you going to step up? Philadelphia was a good story for the league last year. Can they build on that? Portland is always one of the fun stories in the league. I think there's pressure on Giovanni Savarese this year. I think they've added a lot of talent, and I think they're a contender in the West. And if they're not, then I wonder about Savarese's long-term future in Portland. And that's always a storyline when you get into those kinds of situations. Real Salt Lake, kind of like Philadelphia, right? Because they're the third team in the West from last year, but there's not really a lot of hype about them coming in. They've lost some players. They've added some players, but they've lost their wingers in Savarino and Bofo Salcedo. Justin Merrim's there. He's a good fit for the way they play. I think he'll have a good year with RSL. I really like Albert Rusnak and Damir Krylak. They're two of the better players in this league. If they can get somebody to score goals consistently, they'll be up there. But they don't have any mega stars, so they kind of get lost in the shuffle at times. RSL and Philadelphia are similar in that regard. San Jose with Almeida, that's always a must-watch. MLS After Dark with Matias Almeida is always fun. Seattle, can they defend their title? That's an easy storyline. Sporting Kansas City, can they stay healthy? Can Alan Pulido be among the Golden Boot race? I think he can. I think they can stay healthier than they did last year. I think they can be a team that wins the West. Toronto's always a story. Pablo Piatti will be a player to watch this season. Toronto's maybe a little bit less of a story than they've been in previous years, but I still think they're a big story and one of the top teams in the East. And Vancouver's maybe one of the others that is a harder sell. You've added Lucas Cavallini, which is good for that market. I'd like to think they'll be better than they were last year, but will they be interesting? They're not a team that I seek out. What's good about the league in 2020 is there's a lot of teams that do have interesting stories. So when Atlanta's not playing and you have ESPN Plus fired up and you're looking for a game to watch, or there's a big national game on, there's going to be most days where there's games in this league, a compelling match. This league hasn't always had that. Even with a few teams that are less compelling than the others, MLS is in a great spot in year 25. I mean, Today NA's got the graphic up right now for Houston versus the Galaxy on Saturday, 3 Eastern. That's their first match, and you get Chicharito's MLS debut. So that's a must-watch. That's one that I'm figuring out if I'm going to get to the stadium super early and watch it in the press box, or if I'm going to watch it and then bust over to the stadium right at the end. So that's a game that I think you want to watch. And when you start looking at the schedule, you're going to have a lot of games like that, which is a really good thing for this league.
I'll give you my rundown real quick. I agreed with a lot of your reasons. Chicago, the move downtown. Columbus,
that's probably
with all of
the most interesting thing about it.
And how is everyone going to respond? How many butts are going to be in the seats? Columbus with all the off-season moves, and Zelarayan, Nagbe, year 2 under Caleb Porter, DC with their moves, and obviously the injury to Areola kind of pulls things back. What's Julian going to look like in DC? FC Cincinnati, how do they respond to all of the off-field stuff? Inter Miami because they're new, Montreal because of Thierry Henry and guys like Lapalainen and Tight Air, and New England with another year with Bruce Arena and Bo and Heel and that offense. NYCFC because they're going to be at the top of the East. Red Bulls because I have questions like you. I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs at this point. Orlando City will be better with Pareja. Philadelphia, they should be in the discussion for 4 or 5 and that next level of what's going on in the East. Toronto FC, the injury to Michael Bradley, and what's Nick DeLeon going to look like in the middle there? The injury that Piatti has.
Not going to play much in the middle. I'm not buying that one. I think it's going to be with Bradley out. It's Liam Frazier playing in the middle.
Okay.
I think Frazier's the long-term replacement for Bradley anyway. I like Frazier. I think he's a talented player. Toronto is still interesting because of the talent they have and because they're a contender in the East. I don't think they're as compelling as they've been in previous years.
Right. And the injury to Piatti and Josie and Toronto to me is always an interesting watch. Colorado with all of the new faces that they have, FC Dallas and how they're doing their build. Houston for me, I'll watch because of Elise and whether or not he stays and how long he stays and what the the fan response is going to be in Houston. I'll be looking more at the off the field stuff with Houston just to see how the city responds again this year. Galaxy, obviously, with Chicharito. LAFC with everything that they want to accomplish this year. How are they going to respond to things? Minnesota United with their new faces and trying to get a high seed again in the West. Nashville because they're new, and I have both Joe Willis and Walker Zimmerman on my fantasy team, by the way. Portland, we always know how competitive they are, but I think you're right. I think that there's pressure on Giovanni Savarese with Real Salt Lake not having Nick Romando in net. How does that look? Obviously, with the offense that we have on the other side, that's always something to pay attention to. San Jose with Almeida and the last year Chris Wondolowski. That for me is why I would watch them. Seattle, because of what we've seen from Brian Schmetzer and the team. Can they get close to repeating a healthy Sporting Kansas City with Alan Pulido, and then Vancouver, the pressure under Mark Dos Santos and how he responds to that. So that's the dime store quick version of why I'm watching all these teams this year.
There's plenty of compelling stories in this league. And like I said, in the past, there haven't always been those. So this is a good step in the right direction for Major League Soccer in year 25.
Percy Herrera, going back to our discussion in hour one, are there clauses in broadcasting contracts between sports networks and pro sports leagues that specify dedicating a percentage of their talks shows to X sport? Does MLB say, hey, we'll make a deal with you if you talk about us 40% of the time?
No, not that I've ever heard of.
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like that as well. What you do is in your rundowns and in your programming, if you figure out that you want to have some kind of outside programming from your live events, then that's up to the programming mavens at the particular network and how much time they devote to it. But yeah, if you are a rights holder, you will invest time, but you're not going to put a percentage to it in a 24-hour day.
It's hard. I mean, I think you would at least be asking for a basic level. I don't know if you can really write it into a contract. I don't know if editorial on like a Sports Center. I mean, really, Fox doesn't really have anything like that anymore. I don't know if they have anything baked in. Now, I do think you could get, and I don't know if like the 2-day NA deal includes the Somos MALS show. If that's baked into it as part of it, is you'll provide a 30-minute show of highlights, et cetera, et cetera. It's not part of the English language stuff. They do produce a world feed like highlight show, a 30-minute show. It's available on YouTube. I think MLS posted on their YouTube as well. But that's for international markets. That does not air on FS1, FS2. That's a little surprising to me because you get the Bundesliga magazine show, for example. That airs on FS1 or FS2 all the freaking time. They throw it in between games all the time. I feel like I see the Bundesliga weekly show all the time. And MLS has a show. All you got to do is just port it over. And it never airs. I think it ended up on ESPN Plus last year. Those little things, and maybe it just hasn't been a priority. I don't know. But there's some little things that they could do. I don't think you could ever get to a point that you can say, on SportsCenter, you would dedicate X minutes of coverage on match days. I don't know if you can get to that point because I don't know if any league really can. ESPN, at least in the past, really separated the editorial decisions from those kinds of deals. I mean, even the NFL, when there were criticisms of the NFL levied on other shows, couldn't do too much to ESPN about it. Especially if you put it on like Outside the Lines or something where it is a heavy journalistic show. It's kind of hard to do much if you were the NFL to complain about bad coverage. I don't know if you could demand any certain kind of coverage, but a 30-minute show, especially when you're already producing it and saying, here, we're going to give this to you, throw it on as much as you want. Like that part, I don't really know why that's not happening.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a no-brainer for a rights holder if you want to have content like Bundesliga Magazine to sit there and promote products that are on your air, to run that 30-minute show and run it all over the place, different time slots, things go over, just have it there in your hip pocket to trot out every single week.
Yeah, it just feels like if you're already producing it, just give it to them to run. Just say,
yeah, here's a half hour.
Take this. Occasionally when you're showing the same Bundesliga magazine show on Saturday and Sunday in between Bundesliga games, why don't you throw this one on in between games when you got 30 minutes to fill? Here, have it. When you need something before an MLS game or after an MLS game to throw, here you go. Have fun with it. I don't know. Just a thought.
Shiva says, so no extra time tomorrow, straight to penalties if it's 1-1. Gosh, we better practice this a lot.
No, you shouldn't have to practice that a lot because you should win in regulation. It's we always freak out in these moments. I've been talking to people all weekend. Look, you can't play this match in fear. You're a better team than Motagua, 100%. Like, they're going to come in and be afraid. Atlanta United should play its game in advance. That's simple. And 1-1 on the road, again, is not a bad result. Club America went to a lesser team in Comunicaciones and got a 1-1. It's the difficulty of going to Central America, but when you get these teams at home, you should take care of business. And historically, MLS teams have taken care of business in these moments. So there's nothing to be afraid of, y'all. Trust me, there's nothing to be afraid of here. If the team doesn't perform well, yes, they can lose because Motagua is a team that has some veteran experience. They're not going to come out and risk a whole bunch. I think they're going to be defense first early on and look for their spots as they go. But Atlanta should win this match, and you're going to be focused on winning it. Period. You don't want extra time. You don't want penalties. You don't want any of that. You've got your fans for the first time this season backing you up. It's all about winning it and taking care of business. Period. It just is. And there's nothing to be afraid of when it comes to the way Motagua plays, the threat of injury. You could get an injury stepping on the practice field. I mean, these things happen. You've just got to go out and play it. Is Liverpool afraid of the second leg with Atletico Madrid? They should be a lot more afraid than Atlanta is with Motagua, but are they afraid? No. And they lost 1-0 on the road in game one. They get the second leg at home. They should be expecting to go through, and I'm sure that they are. I think Jurgen Klopp's post-match interview and the things he said about it, there's no fear there. There should not be any fear here. You didn't get any sense of fear out of Herrera and Club America. You got the first match, the first 90 minutes of this 180. You took care of business. You did everything you needed to do in terms of positioning to come back home and win the thing. That's it. It's that simple.
Tafka has a Soccer Down Here Fantasy League question. He says, so if all your players perform above expectation, you'll have to drop players when they exceed your set budget, or do you get the benefit of finding the top performer at a bargain value?
I don't know. That I don't know. I didn't make the rules, so I'm not 100% sure. I kind of wonder about that myself. Honestly, I kind of hope that you do have to make adjustments. If their value goes up and you have a fixed amount, then, hey, you got to make some tough decisions later on. I'm okay with that.
Traditionally, the leagues have let you keep the value of the player if you want to make an exchange. Like if the player value
Rules
increases.
Changed, so I don't know.
Yeah. So
I
that
know
was
what you're saying, but I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to see what else is going on this morning. Yes, Tafka also agrees that tub thumping should absolutely be a fan chant.
No, it shouldn't. No, it definitely shouldn't. Don't do that. I did not. No, I don't want that to happen. MLS has released their list of club hashtags, and they also have 16 hashtags in Spanish that have the logo that pops up next to it on Twitter. The fact that there's only 16 in Spanish is a problem. The ones that don't have one in Spanish are missing out completely. Some of these are weird. Unite and Conquer is one that I think people get, people understand it, people use it. It's good. The Spanish language one for Atlanta United is Somos Atlanta. Dig it. Cool. Be using both. Love it. CFFC, Chicago Fire Football Club, is the Fire. When in the past, their hashtag that gains the most traction has been CF97. So I guess they didn't want to do that. Vamos Fire is their Spanish language one. Cool. Rapids 96. Okay. And it's got an interesting logo next to it for the Rapids. Okay. The Rapids do not have a Spanish language hashtag. Come on, Colorado. We are shaming you right now. Hashtag Crew 96 and hashtag Poor Columbus. Okay. Cool. Unite the District for DC. That's where they're stepping out there on a kind of, okay, Unite the District. We'll see if that works. Vamos United is theirs in Spanish, which makes total sense. Hashtag FC Cincy gets the lion next to it. And Cincinnati does not have a Spanish language hashtag. Boo on you, Cincinnati. DTID, Dallas Till I Die, for FC Dallas. And FC Dallas doesn't have a Spanish language hashtag? I am looking at you with disdain, FC Dallas.
Furrowed brow.
No, disdain. Complete and utter disdain. Houston, hold it down. That is so generic anyway. That's the Dynamo's English language hashtag that gets looks like a Texas hook 'em horns kind of symbol.
Okay.
Dynamo. All right. Dejalo todo is in Spanish. All right, Houston. Hashtag LAFC and hashtag Barrio Angelino in Spanish. Cool. Galaxy, hashtag LA Galaxy, Vamos Galaxy, easy. Miami, Inter Miami CF, and La Familia IMCF. Maybe the IMCF is off. Maybe they could have just done La Familia Miami. I don't know. Okay, Minnesota MNUFC and Los Loons. Cool. Then Montreal, hashtag IMFC. Get it? Impact Montreal Football Club. And they do not have a Spanish language one, which I actually understand. I wonder if they have a French language one. They should.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask.
Yeah, they should. I'm just looking at the Spanish list. So, everyone in, just an in for Nashville, and it's kind of a different version of the Nashville logo. And then Todos Unidos is the Spanish language Nashville one. Okay. NE Revs and no Spanish language for New England. You get the disdain too. NYCFC and disdain. RBNY and disdain. Hashtag Orlando City. So they dropped, what was it before? For the City or something? Orlando had one of those
kind
of catchphrases before, and they don't have it now. It's just Orlando City. That's a little easier. They do not have a Spanish language one, which is a huge, huge miss. Orlando, what you doing? Hashtag dupe. We know that's Philadelphia. That's cool because it is different. Get it. And their Spanish language, hashtag Azul y Oro. And Azul y Oro are all caps. I don't know if it has to be all caps to get the snake logo next to it. But, all right, cool. RCTID, Rose City Till I Die for Portland. Somos Timbers for Spanish. Hashtag RSL, easy. Hashtag Dale RSL, easy. Cool. Quake 74, Vamos SJ, cool. Good. Hashtag Sounders, super easy. Hashtag Vamos Sounders, super easy. Good job, Seattle. Hashtag Sporting KC, and no Spanish language. Come on, Sporting. Hashtag TFC Live. I don't like the ones that are like hashtag something live, because then you feel like if they're not playing...
Sounds like a talk show.
No, it sounds like if they're not playing, you're not supposed to use the hashtag. But yes, you want to use the hashtag all the time because you want the cool TFC logo next to it. So just be TFC or whatever, Reds or something. But they don't have a Spanish language one either. Hashtag VWFC for the Whitecaps and hashtag Vamos Vancouver. So the Whitecaps have a Spanish language hashtag with the logo, and Dallas doesn't. And the New York teams don't. And Orlando doesn't. I will leave the editorial comments to those of you out there listening.
Come on, y'all.
Okay.
That was a short one. Impact do have a French hashtag.
But does it get the logo? Because, I mean, you can, but that's the whole point, John. I can make up a hashtag for every team, but it's with Twitter to get the logo next to it. That's the whole point. So if they have a French language one, MLS should make whatever deal they have to do with Twitter to make that logo pop up, because Montreal deserves a French language special hashtag to get the Twitter emoji.
Impact Montrealais.
Well, that makes total sense.
Does not get the hashtag yet.
Then it doesn't count. Just like ATL-UTD doesn't get the logo next to it. So it's not part of the Twitter emoji series.
Come on, Twitter.
No.
Come on, Twitter.
Stop yelling. You don't even know what you're yelling at. You can't have it for every hashtag for every team. But yes, Montreal deserves a French language one.
That's what I'm saying. For their Impact Montrealais, they deserve the hashtag for that
have
one.
A Spanish language.
For
they
hashtag I'm at sea.
Yes. They should have a French language variant of the Spanish language Twitter emoji, because Montreal is special. And Dallas and the two New York teams in Orlando, I mean, come on, what are y'all doing?
Yes, exactly. Another fantasy question from Katie Weaver.
Okay.
Guys, can you convince me, a fan who's never done fantasy sports and doesn't have lots of time on my hands, to do the league this year? Do I need a team of people, or is it individual? How good are my chances as a rookie at beating John?
Very good at beating John. I mean, I would probably bet on Katie Weaver to beat John, because I think Katie would pick players that are in the league, first off.
Yeah, the juice boxes would lean toward Katie Weaver in this case.
Yes. Katie would be the prohibitive favorite. You're picking players. You are limited in terms of how many players per team that you can have. You can adjust the shape, all that kind of thing. So you're picking 15 players. You are picking players that you think are going to have a big week. So you're looking at matchups. It's really good if you're trying to learn about the whole league. And that makes you look at, all right, first week, let's take a look at it real quick. What are some matchups that I like in terms of loading up on one team's players? If you think Atlanta's going to go to Nashville and dominate, then you're going to pick a lot of Atlanta players. I generally like home teams that are favorites. So Vancouver hosting Sporting Kansas City is a conundrum, because I would normally load up on Kansas City players, but they're going to Vancouver. So that's a little tricky. Red Bulls hosting Cincinnati. I would have normally went with a couple Red Bulls players, but this is not a typical Red Bulls team, so I don't know. LAFC hosting Miami in their first ever match. I like LAFC players, and I would have 3 in my lineup for week 1.
Yes.
So you're looking at the league, you're looking at matchups, you're looking at like players who are playing well. You do have to start looking at what their salary ranking is, so you have to make some tough judgments. It's great for learning the whole league, and it's a lot of fun because you can talk trash to John.
Yes. And make sure that my lineup has players who are actually
no. We
here
do that
on
on the show. They
coast.
don't have to do that. We'll do that when you tell us your lineup the day before it goes public, and we will appropriately laugh if you leave guys who have been transferred out of the league in your lineup.
Yeah. No, let's say that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So I would even be a pancake in the fantasy league.
Yes, you would be a pancake in the fantasy league if you have Carlos Gruezo in your team.
Okay, understood. I had a couple of other things. folks wanting to see if we had seen articles and things like that, but we're pretty much caught up on Twitter as I'm scrolling through the timeline quickly. Going back to the conversation from hour one, Chris Hutchison has not seen Dazed and Confused yet either.
Chris, I am also looking at you with the not quite the same type of disdain as Dallas not having a Spanish language hashtag, but maybe a little bit of surprise.
And Tafka says that's not all right.
All right.
The load up on Dazed and Confused drops now.
I think so.
Well, considering McConaughey is going to be in the league next year, I think it's a must.
Yeah. So, let's see. She wanted to know if we saw the article in Medium about sociology.
Do you realize how vague that comment was?
She says, I don't know if anyone got the chance to read this, but thought I would share it on the timeline.
Yours. There's probably thousands and thousands of articles on Medium.com about sociology on a daily basis.
Oh, no, I didn't know that sociology was attached to Medium as,
Do you know
its
what
main
Medium.com
output.
is?
It's a website?
Yes, with a lot of different people write on, because you can create your own Medium. You can write about not watching Dazed and Confused on Medium.com if you wanted to. So a lot of people write about a lot of things, and there's probably a lot of sociology things that are on Medium on a daily basis. So
I didn't know that Sociology 101 went through Medium.com.
This isn't 101. It's just an article about sociology.
Yeah, it's
you need more
sociology. It's in it. Well, normally Atlanta United fandom. Some sociology on Atlanta United fandom was put on Medium. Shiva said it was informative for her, and she thought she would share.
Yeah, it was an interesting article. I was trying to pull it up real quick because I wanted to give the author credit. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to get this right because I want to give them their props. There were some really interesting points in it. There were elements that I disagreed. There were some elements that
Declan Abernethy.
Yes, and I think Declan is on Twitter as well. There's some things in here that are really, really good. I'd love to see it go a little bit deeper. There's some elements about the history side of it that are not quite exact. The Chiefs were very limited in their time and their impact because they lasted from 67 to 72, and then in 1973 a different group ran a team for a year. It was not the Chiefs. You had a lot of the same players because the Apollos signed a lot of the Chiefs players, but it was the difference between the Atlanta Braves owning the soccer team from 67 to 72 and the Omni Group, which owned the Hawks and the Flames, run it for 1 year in 73. It was a different franchise. Most people have it as all the same franchise. They just changed their name. That's not the case. But then you didn't have pro soccer in Atlanta in 74, 75, 76, 77, 78. Then you had Ted Turner, who owned the Braves by this point, by the Colorado Caribous. And yes, it was plural because welcome to the 70s. And moved them to Atlanta, renamed them the Chiefs. The Atlanta Caribous would have been kind of cool. They played in 79, 80, and 81, and then folded. So the Chiefs were not as, I guess, omnipresent as it might appear in the article. They did plant a ton of seeds, and I think Phil Woosnam was really one of the only people in the original rise of pro soccer in the United States nationwide in 67. I think Woosnam was one of the only people who came in and understood that you're trying to come in and launch a professional league with no base to launch from. And you had to go out and teach kids, and you had to go out and start youth programs, and you had to make that a key focus of what you were doing because you're trying to start. I think he said it at one point in an interview, like it's a marathon, and they started with a sprint. And you can't do that because you just have nothing to fall back on. You needed to start smaller and grow instead of coming in and some teams losing $1 million+ in 2 years and going under. And that's why you went from 20-something teams in 1967 in 2 leagues to, I think, 17 or 18 teams in 1 league in 1968 to 5 teams in 1969. And then those teams that stuck around focused on the building. The Chiefs were really the only one doing that at the beginning. And honestly, there's a lot of similarities because the Chiefs were one of the teams that were the best in the league in those first 2 years in attendance, kind of like Atlanta United. They were a team that when the Braves announced that they were going to launch a professional soccer team, everybody said Atlanta can't have a soccer team. They can't do well. They have no soccer background. They have no international community in the late 60s. Nobody's going to watch soccer in Atlanta. Well, people did. Kind of like Atlanta United. So it's a little interesting, some of the parallels between it. But the growth of soccer in Atlanta is 100% down to the Chiefs, but it's just over a shorter period of time than the article might lead you to look at. They came in and they put a lot of resources to it, and they planted a ton of seeds. And they didn't have, and I think just American soccer as a whole didn't have the foundation to be able to survive to completely water all those seeds. They had to get some help. They had to get some good fortune, and there was a slower growth because of that in Atlanta. But yeah, it did lead to what you've had. I mean, I think one prime example and one reason like we focus on the high school game a lot is you had, it's been disputed in different articles, you had no more than 10 high schools playing soccer in Georgia in 1966 when the Georgia High School Association officially sanctioned high school soccer as a state championship. Maybe 10, and probably not even. By the end of 68, so 2 years, and the Chiefs had a huge influence on this, you went from 10 or less to 53 that were committed to fielding teams after the 1968 NASL season. That's massive. You had no organized youth soccer before that, and you had 10,000 something kids play soccer in the summer of 1968. So you really were starting from nothing. So the Chiefs' influence was really big, but it was really stretched out, that influence. There were so many other things that factored into it. I do think the changes that the city's faced has been a big part of it. I think the international change of this city has been huge. I do love that Declan focused in on the idea about people who are new to a city can find connection through sports. And Atlanta United was unique even in just a sporting perspective because if you came from Philadelphia, for example, you were going to be much more excited about the Eagles than the Falcons. But Atlanta United, you didn't have that same connection to the Union. You might leave that whatever connection you had to the Union when you moved to Atlanta. And Atlanta United, and specifically in 2018, because I had a bunch of different people tell me this, when Atlanta United won the championship and just that playoff run, people who had been in Atlanta for years and years and years, whether they were American, whether they had moved here from another country, whatever, whether they had been here for 2 years or 20 years, felt like they were part of Atlanta because of being an Atlanta United supporter. And that was really, really cool to see. I think there's a lot of different layers to it. And I think Declan kind of honestly plants a lot of seeds about what those different layers are. I'd love to see some deeper dives into some of those different layers. But it's a cool discussion starter. So go check it out. It's over at medium.com/@Declan Abernethy. Abernethy. E-T-H-Y at the end.
Abernethy.
Yes. Abernethy.
A lot of folks are asking about Nashville and plans. What are plans? From a 92.9 perspective, a supporter's perspective, those kinds of things. What are your plans, sir?
What are plans?
What are plans?
Plans are. Plans can be a lot of things, John. Here's what I know. we'll just actually go through the whole week because we're about done for this morning show. So here are your plans for the rest of the week, and there's a lot of them. So take notes. Later today, 6 o'clock, Soccer Over There, live from the Brewhouse Cafe. 7 o'clock, you're going to get the pilot edition. So hopefully it gets picked up. The pilot edition of The Run-Up. Kelly Francis, John Nelson hosting that show. We'll get you ready for the upcoming Atlanta United home game, which is tomorrow night in Kennesaw. And I don't know if tickets are still available, not through a reseller. I know there are probably some of those too. Weather is not going to be the greatest, but I think it's going to be all right. It's not going to be as cold as it's going to be in Nashville this weekend, that's for sure. So it's CONCACAF. It's an intimate venue. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope to see a bunch of y'all up in Kennesaw. In terms of broadcast times, tomorrow we'll be on at 7:30 for the Five Stripes Countdown. We'll have the full-time report for an hour after the final whistle, hopefully not after penalties. I'm not expecting that. And hopefully Atlanta takes care of business quickly. I'll be on with Dukes and Bell at some point in the afternoon as well, and they'll be live in Kennesaw. Where is it that they're live from? Twin Peaks. They're at Twin Peaks, right there. Oh man, I'm so bad with street names. Which one is it, John? The one where we get off at the exit and it's
Chastain?
Is it Chastain?
I think we get off at Chastain.
Chastain
Actually, we get off at we get off at Busby Parkway and go up that way.
Okay. Well, I don't think that. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, Busby. It's right there at the corner of Busby Parkway and the road that we take the left on. It's that first stoplight to turn left to go up.
Don't follow our directions because you'll get lost. Just look up Twin Peaks, Kennesaw, and that's where they'll be from
Busby
2 to
Parkway.
7. And go out and join Dukes and Bell, and I'll be on with them at some point before heading over to the stadium. So that's tomorrow. That's tonight. Wednesday, normal Soccer Down Here show. Thursday, normal Soccer Down Here show. We will have stoppage time on Facebook.com/929thegame. Thursday afternoon, not Wednesday, Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock. Then we will have... I don't know what we're going to have Friday morning just yet because there's a trip to take, and it will be heading to Nashville, and I need to get there at a decent time. So we're going to have something for you on Friday morning in a somewhat normal Soccer Down Here time slot. It might be
early.
It might be 8 to 10. It might be 8 to 9. We're still in the process of figuring it out. So we'll have something for you in the morning, and then Dukes and Bell will be live from Tailgate Brewery at Music Row in Nashville. Normal time slot for them starting at 2 o'clock, but at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, me, Jimmy Vance, Mike Conti will be taking over the show like the NWO and doing a 2-hour stoppage time show from 5 to 7 on 92.9 The Game.
Sweet.
On the radio.com app as well. So then I know outside of that, that's a party that Tailgate Brewery's hosting. The Backline, which is the organization of Nashville supporters, they're going to show up. Atlanta United supporters are going to show up. It's going to be a cool party to kick off the MLS season. People will be hanging out and partying after the show. So come by Tailgate Brewery, Music Row, and hang out with us. Then on Saturday, I know there's some different things going on at different venues. I don't have the full list at the moment. I know there will be a bunch of tailgates. I know the supporters groups will be doing all kinds of things in the lots at Nissan Stadium. For us, it's a normal broadcast. We'll be on at 7:30 with the Five Stripes Countdown, 8 o'clock kick, and then full-time report for an hour after the final whistle.
Dress warmly.
Yes. Bring all your coats and parkas and blankets and stuff and be ready for a cold night of MLS season opener soccer.
But it's going to be frickin' fun. It's going to be a great week.
I hope so. Barrett Parkway. Thank you, John Nason. That's what I tried to say, and John was arguing with me. I thought I had it. Man.
Busby and Barrett?
Yes. I thought I said Barrett Parkway, but I wasn't fully convinced. Nason,
go with it.
Up. Thank you, John. No, I should have.
That's what I'm saying. Go with it.
Well, you were arguing some Busby, and then you were arguing Chastain, and you had me confused. I blame it on you, John.
This is different from when?
No, pretty much. It's normal.
That's what I'm saying.
It's true. All right. we're done. We'll be back with soccer over there at 6 o'clock. Come out and join us at the Brewhouse Cafe if you can. Stick around for the run-up starting at 7. Atlanta United, Motagua preview for an hour. Kelly and John are your hosts for that. Come out and join us, and if you can't, you can listen on the app. You can listen on soccerdownhere.net, and you can listen later through your favorite podcatcher. Thanks, y'all, and we'll be talking to you in a few hours. Mucho plot, y'all.
Mucho plot.